you. But I'd like to take this opportunity first and extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to the UPI family, Sam, Dave, Laura. I mean, these are such beautiful angels that came up with this idea to create a village each year to bring people together in the language of photography. And I have so much love and respect for them for what they've done, because when we look at these very difficult times that we're living in, where there's so much hate and division, under the language of photography, they have brought so many of us together, not only in dealing with the language of photography itself, but documentary photography, a form of photography that addresses social issues that are going on in the world today. So as you look around this event, there's so many powerful exhibitions from dealing with global warming, human rights, animal rights, poverty, and so much. So can you join me and give them a round of applause for all the hard work and effort in which they've done over the many years. It's been 8 years, and for me personally, I have met so many friends and developed great friendships based off this gathering. You know, so I applaud them for what they've done. It's making a difference not only in this city, but in the world, you know. And second, I want to give thanks and praise to Digital Silver Imaging for putting all the work for my show and for so many other shows. It's a great institution of professionals that print work, and they do it from the heart, so they always step to the plate, so please support them too. Digital Silver Imaging. Pardon me, I've got so much I want to say right now, but I'm grateful to be here. And when the opportunity presented itself to do something here at Photoville, I immediately thought about doing a group show, because there's so much talent out here today, and sometimes all we need is a platform to share our work. So I'm honored to have gathered up 14 artists with my co-curator, Layla Baran, a beautiful sister who's been with me side by side to make this thing happen. It's a collaboration. I want to give love to all the volunteers that dedicated their time and energy to be here to make this happen. So I salute all the volunteers. Where you guys at? Holler at me, volunteers. I salute you all. So without further ado, what I want to do, I want each artist to take 10 minutes and share their work. And then from there, I'd like to take about 20 minutes and have the audience present questions to them. They already answered my most important question. When I look for artists to share their vision in my show, they all agreed to step forward. So I have no further questions because they stepped forward and they shared their vision. But I do want to say this here. When I wanted to put forth this show, I found so many of them on Instagram. Instagram has become this great platform where photographers are sharing their vision. So I was just searching around and I came upon so many of them. So I have personal relationships with every artist on here based off their Instagram feed. But I want to first speak about Soraya. And when I wanted to do a show, I was really interested in albinism and the suffering that was going on in Tanzania. Something that a lot of people not even aware about. So earlier this year, I was posting photographs that I found on social media of the struggle that's going on in Tanzania with albinos. So I told my daughter, I said, I need you to go online and find someone who has documented that life, and I need them to be in the show. And she immediately came up with Soraya within 10 minutes. And I saw her incredible photographs and said, she's in my show. So I'm honored to have her on deck. With Michael Young, I met him in 2016 in Washington, D.C. during the opening of the Smithsonian, the African American Museum in Washington. And I met that brother, and we spoke for about 3 hours. And we just kept speaking about life. He was a veteran. He did 2 tours in Iraq, and I was so amazed with his journey. He spoke about post-traumatic stress syndrome. So I knew we developed a friendship back in 2016. We speak about twice a week, and I knew that brother needed to be in the show here because the issue of PTSD is very real, not only amongst veterans, but amongst people in general. We all go through our own individual trauma. So I wanted Mike to be in the show, and that was very important to me. So can we give him a round of applause? And my man right here in the middle, I mean, this guy right here, he's next level. Leonardo is a wonderful young man, and what's special about my relationship with him that makes it so deep is the fact that I spent 20 years working for the New York City Department of Corrections as a correction officer. And throughout my time in corrections, I worked to use that position to guide a lot of young men that had maybe made mistakes in their life, and some who might have been innocent. So when I first saw Donato's work, I was impressed with his eye, first of all. And then when I started to read up about him and found out that he was formerly incarcerated, and his inspiration for wanting to be a photographer was rooted in his prison experience, I said, I need him for the show because it brings it full circle for me. So here I am, a former officer, and I'm working with a young man who was incarcerated, and what we have in common is the language of photography. So I knew beyond a shadow of doubt I needed him to be in my show. So yes, So without further ado, I'm going to let each artist represent the show and prove who they are. And in the spirit of my wonderful brother who is my mentor, Joseph Rodriguez, he has a question that we used to say back in the streets in Brooklyn, and that's how you be. So I'm going to say right now for you, sister, Saraya, how you be. So tell me who you are. What you working with, girl?
All right, here we go.
All right. Showtime, y'all. But thank you all for coming out.
I just want to give a special thank you to Jamel for believing in all of us and for giving us a platform to share our perspectives. It means a lot. So here's a little glimpse about me. I'm Saraya. I consider myself to be a travel and culture photographer with some humanitarianism sprinkled in there. And what I crave is to capture the seldom seen, or what truly makes us human. Fortunately enough, through my collaborations with many editorial and nonprofit clients, I've been able to explore some of the most remote corners of the world. From Senegal to the Pacific North and Southwest, to Mexico, to Zanzibar, to Morocco last week. I feel fortunate enough to be able to experience what the world has to offer and to allow it to further deepen my understanding of the communities that lie within it. So I'm about to speak about 3 different projects that I produced. One of the first ones being just outside of Oaxaca, Mexico. In this small little village of Teotitlan del Valle, this community, all they've ever known is weaving. Spanning back to about 500 BC, this indigenous craft has evolved from the preservation of their traditions from sourcing natural fibers of nature and going ahead and weaving them into this beautiful art craft that they often use to record tales of Mother Nature and their history. Underneath this village lies the ruins of this ancient civilization that inspires their connection to the earth within them. Presently, they're dealing with a serious issue that's forcing them to lose this connection. Many of the communities involved in this village are now, because of time and money, going back to synthetic dyes, which is then trickling into their water source and into their lives, and are now facing significant health issues. And this family here, Porfirio Gutierrez, is working to preserve this craft and allow it to be passed on to further generations. The next project is a funky one. These are the Weed Nuns of California. The Sisters of the Valley have used their healing power and cannabis business model to touch lives internationally. They've grown exponentially to millions and millions in profit, going back towards healing. They produce these tinctures and salves that have allowed many people with chronic illnesses to alleviate their symptoms on the daily. Not only that, they're extremely feisty and are at every protest and every demonstration working to fight for what's true and real. So I aspired to have that drive one day. And this, which is included in the Photoville Perspectives exhibition, is my most powerful, what I consider, significant project to date. What many do not know is that for decades, in most of Eastern Africa, especially in Tanzania, there is discrimination and deadly killings of people with albinism. For whatever unknown reason, this lies within black magic and voodoo, where people have created misconceptions that people with albinism are rendered evil, worthless, bad luck. Many of them are passed aside, not able to get jobs, as they're seen as their condition to be handicapped. They've been shunned from a society that is supposed to embrace them. About a few years after I've heard about these grave killings, I decided to finally do something, or try to. I felt fortunate enough when I approached a Tanzanian nonprofit organization called Under the Same Sun, and they were willing to take me into open arms and introduce me into the community. These 50 individuals with albinism were included in a visual advocacy project that brought forth an attempt to reframe societal perspective on the condition, while spreading truth that it's actually medical and it's within their genes. Through the use of diptychs, we connected the viewer to the individual. As often they're in hiding because fear of threat from the sun, from each other, and we allowed them to give them a platform for their own advocacy, to share their own perspective. So here I will read you and show you 4 different individuals. My name is Nancy Raymond Masaki. I am 19 years old. I am a young girl with albinism. Albinism is a condition of lacking melanin that prevents sun rays from affecting the skin. In Tanzania, albinism is still a daily challenge, especially in the streets, where there is still a lot of stigma alive, and many people do not have the education to understand my condition. Following this is Kevin Kulwa. I am 14 years old. Since I came here to the government center, I have yet to go back home. It's been 7 years. I can't go home because of my safety. I wish to see my family again. I can't go home because I will be kidnapped by the thugs. You see, the Tanzanian government currently doesn't have a long-term solution to protecting their albinism population. Children like Kevin are then put in government centers where they're taken from their families and put under protection. But like Nancy and Kevin, they are actually the lucky ones. This is Pendo. Pendo Sanjarema. I am 16 years old. It was 9 a.m. when we were having our dinner, and then 3 strangers came, and we welcomed them into our home, but they immediately asked to leave. Suddenly, those people came back and started chasing us. They caught me, pinned me down, and chopped off my arm, and then ran away with it. Then my mother started screaming, and my neighbors came to help me and took me to the hospital. Pendo was fortunate enough to have a hospital nearby, but many of these children live often in remote villages and have to find help somehow. Emmanuel. This is a drawing of his attack. I'll just leave it at that. But Emmanuel doesn't let that stop him. He's now become an exemplary student and used his impairment to make beautiful pictures of Spider-Man, of his friends, of school. His spirit is very much alive. We then brought these diptychs into the streets of Tanzania all over the country so people could understand and read for themselves. From boats to tuk-tuks to markets to schools to houses, we wanted to bring it into the streets so people could actually understand. Photography can often be a strong voice and the most persuasive in raising awareness towards a social justice issue. So with that, I realized that through this all, it's about human connection. It's about how we relate to others and how we can understand each other more. And it's about educating this generation so that they can start understanding the truth and living by it. I have a book out that shows all of these individual stories that you can find at the Photoville bookstore. But most importantly, I just hope that you can read and talk to a neighbor, a friend, and just start the conversation. and in hopes to end this abuse and discrimination and injustice for the community. Thank you.
That was incredible, I gotta tell you. Makes me feel real insignificant as a photographer. My journey into photography wasn't quite, it was an unorthodox journey into photography, if you will. You know, I spent time in prison. I was a criminal my whole life. And so I had no idea what the world around me was about, except, you know, that I knew how to steal really, really good. I knew how to be a thief, and I knew how to make money on the streets. I ran with a very serious crowd, and I took a lot of chances, you know, separating from what I would call, you know, a second family, if you will. I could say today, photography saved my life. She made an important statement about, you know, it's a voice. For me, it wasn't about the images. It wasn't about the people, the photographs. It really was about me rediscovering the world. I felt like I parachuted into the world and I was an alien. That's exactly how I felt. I had no knowledge of how to work a regular job. I had no knowledge of how to balance a checkbook. Everything was paid in cash or everything was stolen. I mean, that's just the way I lived my life for a real long time. You know, and after a while, things caught up, obviously, and I wind up doing, you know, some time, which happened to be one of the best things that could have possibly happened to me. And I have so much respect for, I wish I had the opportunity to go to Tanzania and to, you know, travel the world and document stories like this. I wish I had that opportunity. I've been home roughly 6 years now, 7 years. And the work that the photos that I have that I'm displaying today is really not about any individual story or any storyline. It's about understanding humanity, period. I didn't understand who the hell I was. I came out of prison and I was sick to my stomach thinking that I had to get a regular job and make probably minimum wage. I had no education. I had no social skills as far as I was concerned. I don't speak as eloquent as Jamel does or this lovely lady here. I'm through and through still who I am. I am a street guy with a camera. But with that said, I have the ability to do things that other people can't do. I understand people very well. I have very, very sharp insights because I had to use that as a defense mechanism on the street. That was my way to survive. So now approaching people in the street, it becomes a little bit easier. It becomes a way for me to navigate and understand. I ask questions most of the times. In the beginning, it was you know, just taking pictures from afar. And, you know, if I thought you looked curious enough or funny enough, it was a human being. It was somebody that was just living their life. And to me, any facet of life was unseen for such a long time because I was living in such a bubble and I was living a false narrative, if you will. I honored people that had there was no reason to honor them. They were doing all the wrong things, and I was doing all the wrong things with them. And so the best gift that I ever got was from my dad before he passed away 2 years ago. And another thing I could say, I don't know if I shut this thing off or what. Okay, it didn't shut off. It's good. But the best thing I could have got was a camera for my father. and he gave me the opportunity. My probation officer came to visit one day, and he saw a camera on my table, and he said, "What is this?" Like he thought I was staking out some kind of bank or something like that. No, this is a true story. So I showed him some stories. I showed him some pictures, and he was like, "Wow, you're actually, you're not bad at this. If this is really you." Now, I figured he was just giving me more rope to hang myself, and so I said, "F this guy. I'm gonna go show him what I could do." And with that, I don't know if many of you familiar with National Geographic. They used to have. Well, not National Geographic, obviously, but they have a platform called Your Shot. I don't know if this thing is working really proper. Okay, but anyway, so I joined this little. I saw this woman arguing for a bologna sandwich on a government food line, and it pained me to see this woman arguing with this gentleman for a bologna sandwich for her family. So I asked, she spoke Italian, and I'm fluent in Italian, and I understood her cursing in Italian and, under her breath. And so I caught that, and I said, "Vieni qua, fammi parlare un secondo," and that's mean, "come here," in Italian. And I said, "I want to bring you to a diner, and I want to buy you some hamburgers and stuff for your family." And so that's what I did. And so, ironically enough, I had my camera, and she sat down, and the image is somewhere in the slide, and it's a picture of a woman sitting on a bed, and her son wearing a beauty mask. It was a complete bizarre picture, but in the picture I noticed, and there was a very unhappy family. You could see it was broken, but in the photograph, in the frame that I saw this little picture of this little happy little girls, and to me, it sent a message saying that this was once a happy, there was some happiness there at one point. And so National Geographic sent me a letter, and they said, "Hey, you won, your snap, and I thought it was a big deal. And for me, it was a big deal. I thought I was actually good at something. And so there, I just went on and I just took pictures of anything I could take pictures of. Interesting people I love the beach. I take pictures of people on the beach. Funny, whatever fills me up. But now I'm taking pictures of things that I want to know more about. It's become an addiction, and it's become a way of me to kind of navigate around the world. Because, again, I'll say it again, I didn't know jack about living in this world besides being a criminal. And being a criminal comes with, there's a price that comes with that, and the price that I have to pay next time is going to be, lights out, and so I couldn't swallow that pill. So here I am, Jamel, being the gentleman that he is just an extraordinary photographer. I actually viewed his photographs in prison. When I came home, I copped that piece, Everybody Street, for $5 on I think it was, I don't know, was it Vimeo or something like that. And I said, I want to be this guy. I want to be this guy, and I want to be this guy, but I want to be better than them. And I want to travel, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I got lucky with one publication. People saw that I changed my life, and and during the change, I've changed other people's lives. I've given them the courage. I've given them. I share my story. So with that, they believe that there's a possibility of change. I mean, and so that was my gift back to society, to be a good guy, and you know what? To know that I could do something normal and not shoot a gun rather than shoot, a picture was very gratifying to me. You know what I mean? A trigger is much harder to pull back than than just pulling a shutter, you know? So, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I appreciate every single one of you that came here. And Jamal, I can't thank him enough. And Joe Rodriguez, I'm so pissed off that he didn't come. I wanted to talk some shit with him because me and him, excuse my language, ladies and gentlemen, but, you know, he kind of, I just met him and we just kind of, you know, it was just incredible. The bond is there. We understand each other. Stop. I'm sorry.
Can everyone hear me?
No. Take that. You broke it.
All right. Can you guys hear me now? Yeah. All right. Coming behind these two amazing photographers, I'm like speechless. But first and foremost, I want to thank Jamel. I want to thank the folks at Photoville. I want to thank Eric from Digital Silver. It's been a long journey for me. Growing up in Baltimore, I've seen a lot of things, and I saw a lot of things that I didn't want to become, so I joined the military. And as a kid, it was always a dream of mine. And I have a younger sister, and while my mom was pregnant with her, I would go to visit my grandmother. So just so happened, my sister's being born, and there was this National Guard armory around the corner from my grandmother's house. And my grandmother would tell me that I would find a way to like break out of the house, and I would run in the street, and the soldiers would let me play in the car. And from that moment on, everyone knew that I would join the military. So life happened. Figured, nah, I don't want to go, but I figured it was either go to the military or go to jail. And I didn't want to take that chance. So I went into the military, started as a reservist, and the reserve thing seemed kind of like watered down, and my commander was like, hey, you'll make a great soldier. So I decided to go active duty. And I'll never forget, it was June 4th, I believe, and I had orders to go to Korea. Get to Korea. Anyone been to Korea before? All right. And I go into Seoul, and I'm like, yo, the Army's like dope as hell. And this is like back when like hotels started using those like key fobs. And I'm like, okay. And I stayed there for like 2 or 3 days, and this is when everyone's wearing like throwback jerseys. And I bought like a shit ton of jerseys, man. And I get this briefing, and they say, hey, if I call your name, go into this room, you're going to 2ID. I didn't want to go to 2ID. I heard like tons of horrible stories. It was kind of like a plantation.
What is 2ID?
2nd Infantry Division. And they called my name. I didn't get up. There was another McCoy in the room. So they started reading my social. I was like, well, maybe we got the same social. So I go in the room, and they say, hey, you know, you guys are going up north. And I'm like, well, shit, north is like North Korea, right? And they said, well, you're not that close to North Korea. So I get there, and it was like a damn plantation. I seen like privates like shining shoes and cutting grass, and I'm like, what did I sign up for? But 45 days later, I found myself in Iraq. And I got to Iraq August of 2004, did my first tour. We came back to Fort Carson, Colorado. And we went back out again that next year. And during my second deployment, my mother died. And, you know, that right there changed my life. And I realized from that moment on, I can't go back and catch all the times that, you know, I missed the parties, the girls, and everything else. I figured, you know what, why not document? And, you know, since then, I kind of took this thing here a little more serious, and it also helps me deal with PTSD. And the project you guys are going to see is called Invisible Wounds, because when people think of mental illness, you know, you think of someone who may be a drug addict or someone who may have a specific look. But if I were to walk past any of you guys on a busy street, you would just think I was a regular person. So you have tons of people, whether they're soldiers, returning citizens, even documentary photographers that go through stuff. And, this here, saved my life. And it allows me to touch others. So without further ado, I would like to go into the presentation. It's the video, by the way. I don't want to kind of talk everyone's ears off. So it's the video. Enjoy.
So what I like to do at this time, if you have a question, if you can come forward, state your name, that would mean a whole lot. Once again, I've already asked my question when they accepted my invitation to come here. So, audience, anybody? Wow, nobody? Please come forward. Anyone who has questions, can you please step this way, please? I would really appreciate that.
This is not a question, but I just want to salute all three of you. Your stories are very emotional and touch me. So I just want to say that the work that you've done is very appreciated. And thank you.
All the work was so inspirational. And this question for Soraya, was there any impact from the public exhibit of your pictures in Tanzania of the albino folks?
Absolutely. Just going through the different villages and communities and all over the country when I was exhibiting them, I was so surprised, honestly. There were people coming up to help me. Not because I think I misunderstood their fear. It wasn't because of, we're going to hate these people and, we're just trying to, live our lives. It was more about we want to understand more. we want to get to know them. They're us too. And wherever I went, people would come up to me and ask, what is this about? How do I get to know more? And since then, the organization in Tanzania has expanded, and they continue to put forth such incredible effort towards education programs, medical facilities, and just really making it accessible. And so I'd like to think so, whether small or large. I think, you know, even if it affects one person, it's a train of effect. So thank you.
And Soraya, can you tell us more about your iconic photograph of that young man? And can you give us his name and age and what was going on in that photograph?
Absolutely. His name is Baraka. Baraka means a blessing. The photo that you saw there was completely unposed. I wasn't even going to bring my camera that day, honestly. He was lining up to receive his diploma, moving on to high school. And he was fortunate enough to receive a private schooling, healthcare, safety, and be in proximity of his family. So he continues to excel and loves to play soccer.
Any more questions? Please come forward.
I never stop learning, and I've been around photography for a very long time, so thank you.
And what is your name?
Gail Buckland. This is a question for you, Donato. Donato. Okay,
Nobody
I'm
gets
not
it.
fluent in Italian. Donato.
Nobody gets it right. Don't worry about it.
Were you exposed to any photography in prison? Are there
I would-
photographic books, instruction, and is this something we as a community should be pushing forward?
It's funny that you asked that because Jamal and I were just speaking of that. There was a few kind. There was first. I mean, I buy what I bought. Let's say past tense. I used to pay 2 stamps for a magazine. That's the currency. 2 mailing stamps for a magazine. So I put word out. You know, I want National Geographic, Discovery, whatever. But there was a CO, we call them CO, cell officers, that used to bring in magazines for me because he saw this burning passion. And the only photographer was the prison photographer, you know, where you take those silly poses. And the job was taken for like 6 years, so I couldn't really get that job. But I was taking pictures in my mind, you know, pictures of gang members with tattoos, and I was already creating compositions in my mind of so it was really more in my imagination, you know. So no, I wish there was a camera. Believe me, I'd have an incredible body of work.
Sarah Gillespie. Firstly, thank you, Jamel, for putting an amazing panel together. I have a question for all the panelists in terms of how did you go process? So from starting with, you have an idea for a project, and then how do you go about taking that idea to getting the funding, to getting the travel, and getting and also just publication in general? And thank you also all for your stories. They're incredibly moving.
I don't have a process. Everything that I do is, it's sophomore. I tend to focus on issues that impact me and impacts my community. I also like to focus on things that most people overlook. As far as funding, everyone here is a photographer, I can tell. Funding is like, it's hard to get, you know, like for most social issues, you know, people really don't give a shit. So it's just like, why should we give you money? So, you got to find the money yourselves. And like, for example, like this project I showed you just now, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. You know, just my life alone, I was going through some stuff, and I was in a dark place, and I decided to go to therapy. And I wasn't going to take my camera until Jamel said, hey, man, you should take your camera. And I'm like, nah, I got to get myself together. And he was like, well, you ain't going to be busy all the time. And I took this camera, and I was just fortunate enough to like spend 90 days with a group of, you know, dope veterans, and I was able to tell that story.
This question is for Donato. Your street photography,
Yes.
did you ask before you took the photographs?
In the beginning, I didn't ask. I didn't ask because I was still very, I felt very awkward, socially awkward.
Yeah.
I didn't have communication skills, if that's what you mean. I mean, I took most of the photographs, you know, I like taking photographs close for some reason. It's just my preference. But now I find myself asking more because I feel that I think there's a need, especially these days, to find out what's going on in the world. Like Jamal mentioned before, we're in a great deal of turmoil. People are hating and yelling and screaming all over the place. I mean, it's very painful. So when I take a photograph, I have to feel it. I have to feel something it's gonna kind of pull me. It pulls me. It's just an instinct that says, you know, this person's interesting or has something to say. Yeah. Obviously, you know. So that's how my process really, if it's a process, I don't know.
Can I ask about the one of the mom and son, and when you were in the ocean? They were standing in the ocean, and she's in the full...
The burqa?
Yeah, the burqa.
Well, the burqa, I was always curious about, you know, the Muslim culture, and the woman was very. That one, are you asking if I asked permission? Yeah, she didn't mind at all. I actually took a number of photos that really didn't work for me, but I chose this one, you know. But I have a few pictures of Muslim in burqas that most of them don't allow it. And I respect that, and I don't push that issue. I respect everybody's religion or place in society. Yeah. You're welcome.
And I have a question for you, Mike. Can you tell me what you are currently working on?
Well, I have a few things that I'm working on. I started photographing a group of black cowboys recently. Me and my golf buddies, we would go to Ruby Tuesdays and, you know, kick it after the golf course. And there was a group of black cowboys that I saw for like maybe about a year or two. And finally had a chance to connect with them and just had a chance to hang out and enjoy life with them. And I just want to tell that story because everyone looks at cowboys as, you know, country people. And when it comes to black cowboys, we really don't know much about cowboys unless we're looking at like Rory. Shout out to Rory. I just want to tell that story, and I'm also working on participating in a writing workshop with combat medics. So I did a piece with the New York Times Lens blog about a year or two ago, and the photographer and writer that I worked with connected me with a fellow Marine, and he took up journalism as a way to deal with his PTSD. And we connected the other day, and we're gonna put on a writing workshop and help these combat medics, you know, write out some of their issues.
Thank you. And, thank you. And can all of you please let the audience know where they can learn more about your work from your websites, your IG pages, please?
It's long. It's michaelamccoyphotography.com. That's MICHAELMCCOY photography.com. The same thread for Instagram, Facebook. I believe it's the same, and Twitter is Mike McCoy Photo.
For me, I'm not really well organized. I'm not too. I'm a little, whatever, scatterbrained. But still, I'm working on an important project right now that ties in with what Jamel said. And I like all for you to, if anybody has any kind of content or information that in regards that may be able to help me. I'm looking to try to raise money for a grant called I Know You Heard Me Screaming. And what it is it's a metaphor for what the world is going through. Like he said, we have ice caps are melting, politicians are screaming, kids are being bullied. It's just a number of layers of things. But as far as social media, you can get me on Instagram, Donato_DiCamillo for the most part. And, the website is sketchy, but you'll see it be cleaned up real soon enough.
I have another question for you, too. You mentioned that you have an exhibition coming up at the courthouse.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great.
Please tell us about that story,
Oh,
how this is coming about.
Oh, yeah. This is a great thing. This is ironically just insanely funny. So I got a phone call from a judge, a federal judge, and I did federal time, so I got a little, nervous when he called me. He was like, it so happens that I hope every single one of you can make it, really. I really, truly mean that. October 29th in the Eastern District Federal Courthouse, I'll be having my first solo exhibition. Coming full circle and doing a show in a federal courthouse where I was indicted is like, yeah, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's good stuff, and it's gonna be, it's going to be really laid out nice. So, yeah, that's...
Congrats. My website, just my name, sorayamatos.com. My Instagram's shopbysoraya, Soraya. And yeah, thank you so much all for taking the time, coming, hearing us out, and come see our exhibition, container number 36.
Okay. And as we come to a close, what I like to say in all of my conclusions is that it's a saying I heard in the street. Some of you guys might have heard it before. But the harvest is ripe, but the concerned photographers are few. So in this day and time, we need all hands on deck. We have been so blessed to have the gift of vision, and if we use it properly, we can make the world a better place. There's something special about photography, as I stated earlier. It is a universal language that stretches across the globe. I found in my personal Instagram page, I'm able to connect with people around the world and inspire them to pick up the camera and look at things differently. So we have the power to make the world a better place right now. And I really reflect back on Paul Robeson and how he stressed the role of the artists in society. Not only the photographers, the painters, the poets, the musicians. As we look at all the problems going on in the world today, we just need that. So Perspectives was my chance to try to create that platform. But we need all hands on deck. And with this particular show, what I need from the audience, if there's any collectors, curators, institutions that may want to bring the show there, collect the work, please consider it. I don't want it to just stop here, because oftentimes exhibitions end and the work goes in storage. But we have a very important body of work, and we need it to be moved. So if there's anyone here that has any ideas, please get at us. Our booth is 32. We would love for you to stop by and continue the conversation. 36. That's what I said, 36. I'm 32 years old. I slipped, though. I'm sorry. But please come by 36. We have some sparkling apple cider, and we can continue the conversation. And that's pretty much it. So we're at 36. We're going to be there. I'm going to be there for a couple hours. I trust you guys to be there to shake hands. But thank you so much for your participation. And let's use this as an opportunity to make this world a better place. And once again, can we please give a round of applause for the UPI and their contribution? And thank you very much. Peace and blessings. Thank you.